Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 187, which is called Karma. And overall, this was a pretty good adaptation of the chapter of the manga, which finishes off volume 6, also called Karma. In terms of new stuff here, we got a slight extension to the Kashim Koji versus Konohameru fight, and they added in one quick extra scene with Kara, mainly Amado and Delta, kind of almost like spying on each other almost. Other than that, it was a pretty faithful adaptation. I've already seen a little bit of discussion about how people were disappointed that this wasn't quite the level of animation that they wanted for some of this episode. I didn't really come out of this episode feeling that way, mainly because maybe it's just that I don't really prioritize this necessarily as one of the key episodes of the series. I get it, it's like the kind of proper debut of Karma in terms of showing what it is as a new power, and that should be notable. I thought they did a decent job at least creating some sort of special feel to the way the markings go up his arm. But people are kind of saying that they maybe didn't do the big hero shot, kind of getting a clear view of Boruto with the Karma mark justice. But again, I don't even think the manga made that big of a deal about that shot. And that's just because I do think Karma requires a little bit of the explanation to really get behind exactly what it is. Whereas right now, it's just, okay, you can absorb stuff. We had ninja tools this arc that could also absorb stuff, and outside of just the mystery and uniqueness about it and the Otsutsuki connection that they create, the actual power of it right now isn't particularly being shown. So that's why I don't blame them in a way for not feeling the need to go heavy with the animation on this episode, because at the end of the day, it's a very brief fight and then just a power-up scene of just basically a kind of tattoo kind of coming on someone. And I think they probably have made the right decision here to hold back the high-quality animation for another point in the arc. And I'm guessing they will do decent quality animation for Kawaki, once he wakes up and we deal with some of this stuff more than anything. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the whole. Did they prioritize this episode correctly? I'd say, yeah, roughly. I suppose there's always a frustration that we wait so long for these manga adaptation episodes, and then to see them maybe not go all out on one of them that some fans do value very highly. It is a bit frustrating. I get that, but Boruto is one of these animes that it runs basically every single week of the year. The prioritization obviously is a little bit more detailed than even we ever really know. So yeah, like I said, I think there's more important stuff going up, because when we really get into this this episode, this chapter, it is only kind of 4 or 5 kind of main sequences. So we do get the end of Ao here. The steam toad falls on him and crushes him, but not before he uses a final water style jutsu to try and block the toad, block the rubble. But the main thing it accomplishes is that it blasts Boruto out of the way. So Ao saves Boruto's life here and ends his life with the last thing he does not being using a ninja tool, but using a jutsu again. And Kashim Koji notes that, of just was that reflex using that jutsu, or is it some sort of sentiment about being a shinobi at the end? And ultimately it is. Boruto's words from before have had impact, and he's made some attempt to redeem himself and go back to being a shinobi right at the end of his life. And for Ao, who isn't the most important Boruto character, I thought they did this arc here for him as the villain, but then turning it around, decent justice. And now the big characters are in play, of course. So this leaves us with this interesting situation of okay, Kashim Koji is here. He's one of the inners in Kara. How powerful is he? immediately comes down and does this, frog trap ceiling jutsu at everyone. They can't move. He's planning to kill them all. But Konohamaru reveals that he's very cautious. He has a release ceiling jutsu formula on his chest, which he activates, so he's able to free himself, but not the others. And so we get Konohamaru versus Kashim Koji. Now, I suppose, Konohamaru losing fights is always a bit of a controversial topic because we want to see him presented as being strong and powerful, but he's always up against what feels like sort of the wrong opponent. It's always a character who is way above his level, or you wouldn't expect him to win. And it's tough because, like, I don't think you can complain about the fact that he doesn't push Kashim Koji into like a 20-minute fight, and that it is just a kind of quick, they throw some jutsu at each other, but he's clearly better. That is the way it is. It makes sense. Kashim Koji is meant to be very, very strong. You wouldn't expect Konohamaru to win this fight. It's just, you do kind of want to see just a bit of a better showing from him. Now, they extended it out a little bit here compared to the manga. The manga pretty much goes straight from, like, release the ceiling thing to, they get to the Rasengan, like, very quickly after a bit of taijutsu. At least here, we show him using the fire style jutsu, and then I suppose it makes the contrast of Kashim Koji's fire style jutsu all the more powerful and strong from him to see just that, like, yeah, he's a step above even Konohamaru. It's just, but Konohamaru, we want to see why he is regarded as one of the best jonin in the village. And we don't often get that chance. Now, maybe they eventually will use this as a way to show that off-screen Konohamaru has been doing a lot of training, and he can finally, at some point, surprise us by maybe winning a fight we maybe wouldn't expect him to win. That's, I think, what we want him to see, because Konohamaru is notable. Like, this episode makes a specific point of going, wow, what are we doing here? Kashim Koji can use the Rasengan. We're really placing this incredible importance on characters who know the Rasengan are few and far between. This is like a important jutsu that's sort of like passed down from student to master. Only a select few characters know it, and they're all notable characters, basically. So how does this guy know it? But then you remember, who's the person he's fighting? Konohamaru. Konohamaru knows the Rasengan, and Naruto taught it to him. That's important. That's notable. That, yes, this fight is to set up Kashim Koji, but don't forget that Konohamaru to the fans is also important. And I think they've maybe lost a little bit of sight of that, given that, Konohamaru is kind of in the Kakashi role of this series. Maybe you wouldn't place Konohamaru quite at the level of a Kakashi, but there and thereabouts in terms of positioning as one of the best jonin in the village. And you have to just do that a little bit better. I'm hopeful that they'll get that right maybe at some point in the series and have Konohamaru get a chance to shine. But either way, he gets defeated here after the Rasengan clash. He reveals that he has like a kind of exploding flame toad on him, and he activates this crazy fire style jutsu that just sets Konohamaru ablaze, and he's just on fire for multiple minutes, it feels like. They really linger on this for quite a while, and this was probably one of the poorer executed parts of the episode with regards to, like, he is on fire for like a minute and a half or something like that, 2 minutes, while we deal with Boruto kind of building up to using the karma mark. And then when eventually the jutsu is absorbed, he doesn't look like he's taken any damage. He doesn't look burned. He had cuts and bruises like as he went into the fight, and it just looks like he has maybe a little bit more, if even that. And then it definitely doesn't look like he's been on fire for multiple minutes. It's just a bit of a weird thing in terms of that's maybe a sign where, like, ooh, yeah, maybe if they had higher quality animation, they would have actually done a proper, fully battle damaged Konohamaru design here, but they didn't. So that kind of diminished the power of Kashim Koji's jutsu, even though it was meant to be like super, super powerful. Like, it can't be extinguished. That absorbing it was kind of like the only way to really deal with it. So, Yeah, that's what we build up to is the big karma mark scene. So Boruto is seeing their team leader die in front of them. He gets emotional, he gets intense, and eventually the mark begins to expand and go up his arm, over his eye, and it activates, and he's able to absorb the sealing jutsu surrounding them, and then he's able to absorb the fire style jutsu from Konohameru, saving him. And what I really liked about this is that you really see that Kashim Koji isn't just here as a powerful character. He's here as just a character. The fact that his reaction to seeing this is like, oh, it's very calculating. Like, so Momoshiki chose you. You have a karma mark, Boruto Uzumaki, and he then decides to sort of tactfully retreat to sort of see what happens. He sort of is like, oh, I don't really care about the vessel necessarily. I want to see what happens here. Because I suppose Kashim Koji already knows the reveal from the end of the episode that Kawaki has a karma mark. So he's kind of like, yeah, let those two meet. I want to see what two karma marks do. And that makes him very interesting because they then cut to the Kara, investigating each other scene. And they're like, okay, Code, nothing wrong with Code. Code is not a traitor in any way. We pretty much knew that already, but this is Amado stating it, and then Delta sees it on the computer. But Amado is aware that Delta snuck in and viewed what was on the computer, so more suspicion amongst the Kara members. But the main thing is that Delta, who's been kind of, active here, trying to do a little bit of research, she's making some moves here, and it looks like in the preview for next week they're also going to tackle that. So that's all good. The attention is now really focused on Kashim Koji, and so we're going to get to see, I suppose, some confrontation with that in the next episode, which is going to be pretty exciting. So there's that scene. So Kashim Koji leaves, and then it pretty much just sets up the situation where they can go over to where Kawaki is. They cover the setup with Kawaki has also taken out a bunch of the puppets, but he's really destroyed them, which gets across how powerful he is. And so they find him unconscious on the ground, and they go over. Big reveal at the end is Kawaki also has a karma mark. Huge reveal, especially because Kashim Koji did make the note again, reminding us about the reason Boruto has his mark is that he got it from Momoshiki. Where did Kawaki get his from? Because we don't really know a lot of the details surrounding what Kara are about, and Jigen as a villain at this point, but it definitely starts to plant some seeds in your head for what exactly is going on here. That, Kawaki is clearly the vessel that they have been looking for. What does that mean, that he's the vessel, but that he has this karma mark as well? And this is obviously where, with the reveal of Kawaki here, a very important character within the series, because again, if you remember, both anime and manga fans, first chapter or first episode of Boruto, there is the flash forward scene to an older Boruto fighting an older Kawaki in the future. They both have karma marks, and how do we get from there to there? This is a step in the right direction, because suddenly here is that character who we hadn't met up to now, finally introduced in Kawaki. So this is a notable moment for the series. Kawaki is a very important character, definitely has one of the best character arcs in Boruto, and it is just so interesting, especially with the arc that they go on here in terms of introducing his character to us. So very, very excited that we're at this point now after all these years. We finally have Kawaki in the anime, and it's going to be really cool to see them use that. So yeah, that's pretty much the episode. And overall, like I said, it's a pretty faithful adaptation. There'll obviously be a little bit of a debate about, should they have put more animation resources into this episode. I think they might have made the right choice with regards to if they're able to make the Boruto Kawaki scenes coming up really the high quality ones, rather than just this initial use of karma to absorb some jutsu, which is notable as the reveal, but nothing too crazy in this episode that needs the high quality animation, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't really think I have all that much to say about this stuff. My final comment, I suppose, would just be that going forward, you know, we move from end of volume 6, we're going to volume 7 up next. But the thing is, like, this arc doesn't just sort of like end, it immediately transitions into like the next arc, which is a little bit different. So it's not going to give them a chance to kind of do their kind of like, okay, this arc is ended, now let's go into this sort of anime transition arc as we finish off one arc and set up the next arc. They kind of just have to go straight into it, and I'm wondering where they're going to take their opportunities to maybe like add in extra anime only episodes or arcs, where they're going to maybe find like a little bit of a break point, because they have to address Kawaki and introducing him to all the characters he needs to meet now that he's here. So I'm wondering, just are we going to get like a much longer run of manga content in the anime than we expect? Again, I haven't really been looking at the schedule of episodes to know like, you know, what's coming up immediately next. Like, we've got the remaining action at the end of the sort of Ao arc now transitioning into this like dealing with the karma stuff, but you know, I don't really know what's next. So yeah, they're my thoughts on the episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.